Searching for a man behind a church shooting. The suspect, a young white man, opened fire inside a church in Charleston, killing 9 people. Police say they believe the shooting at this historic African-American church is a hate crime. Several people were also injured in the shooting.
It is unfathomable that somebody in today's society would walk into a church when people are having a prayer meeting and take their lives.
We are joined now by John Henry Smith, who is live in New York City. So, John Henry, get us up to speed on what we know so far.
Well, the timeline as we understand it, Rochelle, is that about 9:05 Eastern Time, the police got a call about a shooting over at the Emmanuel AME Church, one of the oldest black congregations in the South, by the way, in South Carolina. Once police arrived, they reported finding 8 bodies there. They transported 2 more people to the local university hospital. One of them expired when they were at the hospital, so there's still 1 person left at the hospital being treated as of this hour, and we know of 9 people who are dead. Police say that the suspect is a very clean-shaven young male. They say they estimate his age to be about 21 years old, wearing a gray sweatshirt, jeans, and boots. They are looking for this young man. He is still at large, although they have not, the police have not activated any sort of evacuation order for the local area. They just tell people to stay at home. The police say tomorrow they will be issuing a reward for information for this gentleman's capture.
This 21-year-old has been caught. Let's bring in Deborah Favorick right now. She's the one who's bringing in this information. Deb, thank you so much for rushing into the studio. Tell us a little bit more about what you're hearing from your sources.
Here's what we know so far. They put out this bolo, this Be on the Lookout, about an hour ago. They had the model of the car, they had the license plate, they also had the name. They were able to identify the name of the driver of that car. They narrowed it to Dylan Roof, 21 years old, and the car, somebody saw the car, somebody called into authorities, and that car was picked up driving north to North Carolina. And so we're now being told to North Carolina. So we're now being told that Dylan Roof is in custody in North Carolina.
In North Carolina, and that comes from a tip from your law enforcement sources, and that's why they were stressing so much in these early morning press conferences, Deb, to have a lookout for, at first, this distinctive looking person, then they had his name, his description, and that's where they kept pushing and pushing, saying they needed help from the public.
You're exactly right. It's almost like an Amber Alert. When you put out a bolo and Be on the Lookout, it's so that you can identify and cast the widest net possible, because once these shootings happen and once the individual is identified, chances are they're likely going to run. And so by putting out these alerts, they have more eyes on the ground, and a tip came in that in fact he was heading up to North Carolina, and that's where we believe, that's where we're being told by a source that's been briefed by investigators on the ground, that's where we believe that he's in custody.
Big news is that we're hearing that this 21-year-old has been caught. Let's bring in.
Relationship, there is no criteria, only that which has been programmed to us.
Now, preaching the words of Assalamu Alaikum, which means peace and blessings be upon you. And I mention both Jesus and Muhammad's names, peace be upon them both. They were both messages of truth and reality. You're looking at the Underground Railroad TV show. And you can see all these gentlemen on YouTube, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And I want to say hi to the people in Canada, the United States, Central America, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and Europe, and I'm leaving
Australia.
See, I always forget Australia. Hi down under. I'm sorry. Okay.
Which is a penal colony.
Yes, yes, sir. And today, you know, we're going to be talking about things going on in the news. It may be new when it hits you old, but we're going to cover the subjects. And I have Dr. Lee Warren of the Power Latent Man and my co-host, former Alderman Jones and committee man. I'm going to let them tell more about themselves, and then we're going to get down to work. Thank you, Dr. Lee Warren, coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, always.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm Dr. Warren, executive producer and founder of Playing the Power Latent Man. We come on every Wednesday from 8:30 to 9:30 on Channel 36, reshown Thursday morning from 10:30 to 11:30 on Channel 36. We hold free public lectures. You can go to the website or you can contact us at 773-509-8124. Again, that's 773-509-8124.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting the invitation.
Well, I am the alderman and the committeeman of the 15th Ward, just like Bill Clinton is president.
Yes, sir. I had to stop saying former.
I'm not the former.
Okay, yes.
I am.
Red Ross corrected us on that. Thank you, Red Ross. He's in the audience.
Well, I just had to say that. I've been wanting to say that for the longest. But I think that what we're going to discuss tonight is very, very important.
Yes.
Because, you see, people can be tricked, all right, by the government. Now, Doc will tell you, see, you all believe that the man was on psychotropic drugs. I believe he was sent there because the pastor was very anti about the police going to jail for a shooting. So they sent somebody to teach the other people a lesson. You go to talking about them, this is what happens. And they're just, the other people are just what they call, what's that term there? They're a group of people that are just, they have to be go-to because they're in the way.
Got a question for the...
Now, what do you think about that, Doc?
Well, they always have to have a cover, and just like the Oswald was a cover for Kennedy, they always have a cover, and Sirhan. So, if you know anything about history, prior history of America, and done any type of research and look at a pattern of how things have evolved, you can suggest from the combine shooting in Colorado, where they're talking about Batman and up there, and I think when we went in that show, most of those people were on psychotropic drugs. I didn't mean that when I say that that's a cover, they can be, see, one thing about psychotropic drugs, you can be easily programmed. Suggestions can be laid into the mind. They're very powerful. You're talking about very powerful drugs, which normally you wouldn't do under normal suggestions. But once you've been put in that type of stupor, powerful suggestions can be laid into your mind. You look at a normal TV, you can see how subliminal messages are laid into your mind about buying a beer, buying a car, whatever that Madison Avenue has. Well, that's sophistication. That's one level. That's for marketing. Now we take it to a whole nother level. It's where a person can be put on psychotropic drugs and be used to do things that normally he wouldn't do. Matter of fact, he can't even remember even doing them.
And Dr. Lee Warren.
Okay, I guess you answered it because I was going to say what was his motivation, but how is it that he walked away alive after causing that much damage and havoc in a church? Trayvon Martin and people being caught in a chokehold in New York, and why is there a higher value of white life
you misunderstand
opposed to indigenous
you
people?
Misunderstand the point. Like, you misunderstand. You're not looking at a pattern. You look at a pattern of events and look at a trend as it goes down, and you can follow the damn thing. And it's not hard. You look at the Cumberland shoot. He walked away. Those youths who walked away, walked in the shoot at that school and killed all those other fellow students. You got the guy Batman, the guy that walked in the theater. He chose a theater that didn't have any guns. He walked away. All of those guys that have done mass killings, mostly whites, they have walked away. And the reason should be why. See, you look at this stuff racial. I'm going to tell you, when that black people are stuck in a racial stuff, they won't never be able to take the blinders off and say, wait a minute, damn, I see what this is agenda far beyond what you're looking at.
It's about class.
Class and power and manipulation.
It's called power.
Power.
Okay.
And see, those people can be constantly being used to push an agenda. What was the first thing the president said? Well, we need to control the guns. What do they do with karate? So it's the guns that you don't know. The agenda is to control the Second Amendment. And once they get rid of the Second Amendment, you know, this is the only nation on the face of the earth that has Second Amendment. I mean, we're fully armed. And the only other nation is Switzerland, Swiss, where it's impossible to kind of take this thing over because there's so many guns in the hand of civilians. So
I mean, isn't England like, you know? I'm trying to recall something about England. I'm thinking about.
You can't get no gun in England.
That's what I mean. They don't have. Yeah.
You want to get a hunting rifle.
That's it, a hunting rifle.
You ain't getting no handgun.
That's it.
And I can tell you because I lived there once.
Yeah.
So I know. I ain't going by what nobody told me. All right?
But you know what, Dr. Lee Warren, do you think that the children and the youth, they're making them, desensitizing them to killing and hurting and maiming by using devices like getting them conditioned to you killing on PlayStation, killing on Xbox, and it makes them numb to a certain point and certain degree. Do you think that's aspect of what the loss of life is almost insignificant to people that do things like this?
Well, you have to understand, America is probably the biggest prison in the world. And if Hitler was here, he would say he'll dream at something like this because everything is totally manipulated and controlled. Where do you think LSD came from? Hoffman and LaRue. It's a Swiss company that was over in Switzerland, drug company. They made LSD. LSD just wasn't made by somebody, some kid sitting up in a barn somewhere. That was made by a major pharmaceutical company. Well, why was it done? To introduce drugs into America to undermine. Well, see, once you introduce drugs, you go back to understanding what happened. See, people don't have no history. They don't have any history about Jack.
Yes.
And as a result, they can be easily misled. You ask yourself, how did England get control of China with those millions of people they had?
With the Opium War.
That's exactly what they did. They put them on opium. And China had, it was only a couple 100,000 troops. I know it wasn't more than 200,000. They controlled the whole damn country. Threw everybody on opium and it undermined the whole moral and everything else.
Until Mao Zedong.
Yeah.
And he did what? He said, ain't nobody coming in here that don't live here.
And then what he did, he cut out all the drugs. He had a strict drug program with like...
If you on drugs, you go over in that corner right there. If you come out of that corner, you getting killed.
Got a question. Okay. Got a question for... Okay.
Am I correct there?
Yeah, I mean the penalty, listen, Asian don't play. They do not play. And if you think the white man's bad, you haven't seen anything when the Asians get a hold of you.
I didn't know that much about them. I don't know that much about them as a race of people.
Well, that's the problem. When you ask the Koreans when they went to Korea and they fought that Korean War, you had white blood Americans, fighters, and hillbillies from Appalachia, fighters. They were captured and tortured. They went into mind control, and they came back here staunch communists. That's what they call brainwash. So how did they flip these people like this?
Right. You know what is this thing? I look at Plum in other shows, and I think you have a prediction that this market is going to crash. I think you said by October, and when it does crash, is that going to cause more violence in the streets? What's going to be?
Well, what's going?
I'm talking about the market.
Give it 2 years. 2 years, you will see 2 to 3 years. It may fall, but it still takes 2 to 3 years for the market to bottom out. But the problem is the chaos that will happen after that. If you think 2008 and 2009 is something, when this one comes around, it's going to be a mess because people will not be able to eat. I mean, you got an EBT card. Listen, all you got to do is look at the governor that you have down there in Springfield now. What is he doing? He's cutting CETA program. They cut
of Illinois, the governor. Yes.
Yeah, he's cutting everything. And he's trying to balance it on the poor people. That's the whole problem.
And the Democrats are with him. They just fake it. They just fake it.
See.
They with that program.
See. And what's going to happen is the people are going to find out and have to go to the streets because they're going to find out that they can't make it anymore.
Do you think something can occur like what happened in Greece a long time ago?
Oh, yeah. Well, listen,
what happened is with the people, I think, remember is the people revolted in the streets, and I'm not proposing that, but the people revolted in the streets and demanded the change be done, and they forgave them of their debts. Do you think that's possible?
Oh, that's coming. That's no question about it. Listen, let me say this real front. Your banking system is a criminal enterprise. And if anybody denies that, they're a damn fool. This is the reason why I say, listen, the Attorney General, that's the first to halter, those banks, there was 6 of them, they paid $128 billion, I said with a B, for fraudulent loans, predatory loans. Then they turn around and last, 2 months they got it, and they got convicted. Well, I guess you could say, these banks are six of them. They got fined about $6 or $7 billion. I don't know, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. And they put the banks, they put the banks on a 3-year probation, and they had a felony. Now, how can you have a felony and pay all these damn fines and continue to operate? Now, anybody with any sense.
And no human being goes to jail.
And nobody goes to jail. That's impossible. I mean, so you're talking about now, if everybody's a felon, the banks are a felon, I said, you got a criminal enterprise. And listen, if that had been a black person selling dope somewhere on the south side, making a, a couple $100,000 a week, I guarantee.
Called racketeering.
Yeah, it's called racketeering. First of all assets are seized. Mm-hmm. All bank accounts, cars, houses, every damn thing. Then he's fined and he'll go to jail. Okay. That's how they roll that. Mm-hmm. Now, the only thing they did to the banks was pay. Listen, you take a bank like HSBC, they laundered money. They said, how much you want to borrow? It's $8 billion. That's some huge amount. Mm-hmm. So when they tell us that we got to go through all this stuff because they think we laundered money, I said, what the hell are you talking about? The biggest laundry of money is your banking system because it's a criminal enterprise. And people don't understand that. And they just didn't just get that way. They've been that way for 400 or 500 years. They're the ones that financed slave trade to get us here.
I want to ask you a question, Dan. You go buy a house, right?
Right.
After you buy the house, most people don't know you pay interest per diem.
That's right.
That means per day.
That's right.
And if it's 7% interest per day, at the end of the month, how much interest is that?
That's the interest on the unpaid balance.
That's like about 200 and some % interest, ain't it?
When you get through, when you get through paying for the house.
Now, don't they call that by a term?
It's usury.
Usury.
That's what it is.
And they've been committing usury for how long?
Hundreds of years, ever since they got off Europe with the Rothschilds. This is nothing new. The people just been too stubborn to rise up and say we're not going to take it.
They done paid for the house how many times? About 3 times? 3 or 4 times?
At least 3 or 4. At least 3. Possibly 4.
You know what, Dr. Lee Ward, is something that I really don't understand, and perhaps you could explain it to me. We are in debt to China, okay? Meaning we owe China a whole lot of money. What is the danger in that, and what if China does decide to call that debt? Will they decide to call it debt, and what type of effect will that have over the United States economy?
Well, it'll crash the credit markets. Everything will shut out. The bonds will fall to zero. The interest rate would spike, but they're not going to do that because it would hurt them. What they would do is say, since you owe me $1 trillion, I want this, this, and this. And mainly what they want is hard assets. 30% of most people, Americans don't know, 30% of the high rises in New York are owned by Chinese.
Not only that, the ports in California are owned by who, Doctor?
By the Chinese. I mean, the Chinese own vast portions of Midwest farming. What they told the people, said, listen, we owe you you owe us $1 trillion. Now listen, we don't want this paper. Now you give us some land, you give us something that's real, not no paper. So the United States had to give up certain things. I mean, factories. They bought a lot of oil factories in Detroit. A lot of Detroit is owned by the Chinese.
I heard that on the Booty Butt Naked Truth. So I didn't know that.
When a person is born, they're signed up with an all-capital name, known as a security. Am I correct?
Everything is monetized, so yeah.
And since they're a security, that means they're controlled by the Security and Exchange Commission, is that right?
Yeah, by the banking establishment, right.
And the one that handles human beings in America is the Edinburgh Corporation, is that correct?
Well, it's one of the biggest, correct, right.
All right. And they put you on the market to pay their debts, am I right?
Well, all that stuff has been monetized, right, from birth certificates, all that stuff has been monetized, so what you know.
So they've already started to do that with human beings, am I right?
Well, they've been doing that.
But worse now.
Oh yeah, everything's continued to get worse because they're in debt. They got to raise more money to steal it from the people to get to keep the thing going.
But you know, Dr. Lee Warren, you know, I want to jump back to China. Okay, you said they are buying liquid assets. They are buying
real assets.
Assets. They're buying assets. And what if the U.S. just say, you know what, y'all bought all this, we gonna nationalize?
Well, no, that'd be a problem. Well, let me show you what's happening. To show you, you know, the scripture says it says the borrower is subject to the lender. And there's another rule that says he who has the gold rules, and China's got most of the gold. So the problem is, let me show you how this thing works. Up in upstate New York, the Chinese have negotiated a sovereign, I don't know how many miles it is, a sovereign corporation with so many acres of land. Just say it's 20 square miles.
Yes.
It's sovereign. What I mean by sovereign, it can't be taxed. It's their own culture, and they bring their own people in there, their own factories and everything in there. So it's in the United States, but really it's not a part of the United States. It can't be taxed or anything.
Wow.
And they have one up in Montana. So they know that America at some point will be the new cheap labor when this thing is finally over with, and they'll be working in those factories doing cheap labor.
Wow, man, that's
because the dollar won't be worth anything, and we'll be dead broke. I mean, just look at the state of Chicago. They're dead broke.
Yeah, I mean,
just borrowed how much money? He's borrowed
$1 billion just recently.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have any of the.
How they gonna pay it back?
They can't pay it back. I mean, that's the whole problem. It's just 3-card Molly. I mean,
so they just stuck the people up.
But I noticed they keep on going highly taxing the homeowners. And,
all the fees and everything will go up. Parking tickets, all types of fees. They have to keep the thing going because they don't have a tax base. Listen, they done shipped all the jobs to China. There's nothing left here. And then we're a service economy, and those jobs do not pay what manufacturing jobs pay. So you take the average engineer in China doesn't make less than 20,000. Full engineer, and the average engineer here makes well over 120,000. So what you think? What's got to happen? Somebody's got to come down, and somebody got to come up. You figure that one out.
I know, like for example, I'm not gonna say where I work at. Where I work at, you know what? They're putting more. We have more productivity that we have to put out, but we got less people because of the budget cuts, and this is going on in a lot of workplaces.
Well, let me tell you this. You think that's bad? You wait till they get the robots in here and artificial intelligence.
Started been talking about that, yeah.
I told you that.
You look at
they have a McDonald's that they're going to run by robots.
You have 3 people in there. That's all.
Wow. What was you going to say about artificial intelligence?
Well, it's already programmed for that.
That's already.
They don't need you no more. You know, they used to need us for picking cotton.
That's right.
All the cotton, they got machines that pick cotton. They don't need no human being. And eventually other things, they won't need you.
So in term, Dr. Lee Warren, when it gets to the point where the individual becomes almost obsolete, what are they going to do? Throw them in prison?
Reduce the world population.
Reduce the world population. That's the other thing. They don't need as many people as you think. They got 7 billion people. They already said it. You look at what Kissinger told you, and what, 2000? Said they're going to reduce the population. That's the way they can.
With Memorandum 2000. So Henry Kissinger wrote that.
You know, because I was in the store once, and you know what, ladies was giving change out, and what happened is the computer went out, and she didn't even know how much change to get back. And we become so dependent on technology. Well,
yeah, because technology does everything. I mean, you know, you just look at 40 or 50 years ago. If you go and look at the factories of General Motors and everything, you look at how many people were on the assembly line. And you get a picture of that, and you look at the assembly line today, damn, you said, what happened to all those people? They don't have nobody on the assembly line. Wow. Only somebody have on the assembly line is the guy to repair the Robux.
Yeah. But I don't know, did y'all read about the McDonald's that would be run by, I think, robots?
Oh, yeah.
It's a prototype. I think it's in Oklahoma, but I may be saying the state wrong. But let me ask you something. As we talk about Plum, what's in the future for Plum?
Well, Plum is trying to make people aware of what's happening, what they should be doing for the common reset. And when the reset comes, what you have is what you have. And you wake up one day with a lot of money, and the next day, you know, I tell you what, it's a story of what happened to the Zimbabwe. It was Zimbabwe, real quick. The British, they were living in Zimbabwe, that had, you know, living a life of ease. They had, you know, $1 million, 500. That was a lot of money in Zimbabwe. Well, when the thing finally crashed, the economy, they woke up one day, they were living a life of ease, totally, you know, didn't have a care in the world, and woke up that Friday, that following Monday, when everything was divided, hit the reset in Zimbabwe. They couldn't buy a loaf of bread. Wow. So everything was wiped out.
Wow. Wow.
So that you ask me what's going to happen, that's to be the same thing here. So the living standards will come down, China will come up, and everything in the world is all what? It's balanced.
We got 2 minutes. I'm talking about in the future for Plum. What upcoming shows do you have?
Well, our shows now is to prepare people for what's coming in more detail, give it more detail about the reset, political turmoil here in the streets, the riots that will be caused. Political turmoil, the Constitution that you ignoring, you know, military rule. There's a whole lot of stuff coming down the pike. If you look at history, you can see it's going to be a repeat. The country is broke. They cannot go another 5 or 10 years and borrow. Nobody willing to lend them any money. The pensions are going to be took. Look at the problem with the pensions. All of whether we're talking about the state of Illinois, California, everybody is threatened about their pension.
Their private pensions.
Their private pensions. Yes, and they done messed the Social Security up. They done stole all that money. And let me tell you, I like to end this way. When the Asians, when they have their pension funds, they buy ports, they buy tollways, they buy things. They take our money and just spend it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what, I'm going to say assalamu alaikum to everyone, and this will be on YouTube. Any finishing comments for both of you?
I like to say real quick, the scripture says this way in the 18th chapter, it says, Babylon, the system in which you're currently under, is going to be totally destroyed. And it says, come out of Babylon, and there are ways of coming out financially. If you don't own no gold or silver or some type of assets, you're going to be in a whole world of trouble, because the new currency, the new power on the block, will be the Asian tigers, led by the dragon, the Chinese dragon. So that'll be the new order.
Wow.
That will be in the next few years.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Lee Warren.
When the towers went down in New York, no one today, Doc, has told what happened to all the gold that was in the vault.
And the diamonds.
And the diamonds that was downstairs.
That's right.
Yeah. But strangely enough, barges came and towed all that stuff to China.
Yeah.
All that rubbish.
Well,
why?
I don't know. I know what they tried to do to Gaddafi, what they did to Gaddafi, man, and you know what he was going to convert over to gold, and the powers to be just couldn't have that.
Well, that 142 tons of gold is now in England.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's in China.
Oh yeah, by that way by now. Yes, eventually going to China to pay them off, right?
Assalamu alaikum. Looking at the Underground Railroad, we come on every Saturday night at 10:30. And thank you, Dr. Lee Warren.
Well, thank you for having me.
Having accepted the invitation. We'll be back next month.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, that's good. I didn't, you know what?